Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me for practice. My name is Elise Krause with Hometown Yogis. For today's practice, you won't need any props. If you like a blanket underneath you for padding, please grab a blanket. And if you'd like some support underneath your knees for the end of practice, you might take a blanket or towel, roll it up into a tight roll, or if you have a bolster, then you can take any extra props and place them off to the side for now. This is a gentle hatha yoga practice. We're going to take our time to nourish ourselves with some slow movement. As always, take as much time as you need, moving with the rhythm of your own breath, making modifications where you need them. And we're going to begin today's practice in constructive rest position. So when you're ready, please make your way to the ground with knees bent, feet planted on the floor. You might like a little support underneath your head with a blanket or a pillow, so grab that if you would like that. Once you find the ground, please step your feet a little bit wider than hip width apart so that your knees can fall inward toward one another, resting arms beside your body. And as you settle in here, your eyes may soften or completely close. Take your time to make any shifts or adjustments as you find your way into this checking in position. So that might mean rolling your shoulders or rocking your head side to side, stepping your feet a little bit closer, wider, farther, more together. Once you find your way into a place where you can settle the activity of the body, perhaps you might begin to check in with your connection points with the ground underneath you. You might feel the ground coming up to support the soles of your feet. Maybe imagining your feet getting heavier into the ground so that the soles of your feet become really receptive to the texture and the temperature of the ground underneath you. And can you begin to feel into that same sense of support behind the hips and pelvis, tracing the line of your spine, noticing the little area at the low back where you lift away from the ground, and then again noticing where you come back down to rest at the low ribs and mid-back. Backs of the shoulders beginning to settle backward and downward. And know that you're not stuck in this position, so if at any point you'd like to shift yourself to find more comfort, that's what this position is for, is checking in. It's beginning to notice the internal places of movement and of relative stillness, and then shifting when things need to shift. Maybe as your attention begins to spread throughout the body, and you begin to notice the ground spreading underneath you, you might begin to bring more details of your experience into this moment. So maybe you notice the sounds around you, or the quality of light coming into the room where you rest, noticing these things without them needing to be any different. This time for yourself being just enough. This way that you rest, being just perfectly enough. Maybe you set an intention for your practice as a framework, imagining in your mind that there's a little bit of a softening through the center of your chest, through the ribs, through the upper back, and the low belly. And taking things slowly enough in practice where you can notice what's happening internally and outside of yourself, and you can just take a pause enough to generate a little compassion. Letting your intention be that of compassionate response of supporting yourself, your body, your nervous system, your mind and breath with compassion, with care. Bringing your attention again to the soles of your feet. Maybe getting a little bit heavier through your heels. Begin to slowly, when you're ready, lift your toes away from the ground, just your toes. Maybe roll your head side to check in with yourself, or curl your palms in and out, stepping your feet a little bit closer together if that helps you sense the bottom of your feet, bringing feet more hip width apart. And maybe you connect this with your breath. So on an inhale, begin to lift your toes. And on your exhale, begin to roll down through the bottoms of your feet so that the toes just soften to the ground without curling, without pressing or forcing. And then repeating that movement. And if moving with your breath isn't serving you for this practice in this moment, then let it go. Let your breath move naturally and let the movement be its own activity. And continuing that movement a few more times. Just lifting the toes, maybe spreading them, noticing the spaces between, and then letting them soften down. Maybe next time the toes curl up, the ankles follow, and you roll the bottoms of your feet up away from the ground, leading with your toes, and then you roll down through the bottoms of your feet without pushing, just noticing where you can make those connection points through you. The bottoms of the feet rolling down to plant on the ground, in and up. Down and softening. Letting this be all you need to do right now. Just moving through the bottoms of your feet, checking in. And next time the soles of the feet come down to the ground, maybe you leave them there. And you just notice the difference. And begin to lift the right heel away from the ground and slowly bring it back down to the ground. And then moving to the left side, lift the left heel and then bring it down, and repeating that side to side again. Maybe move with your breath, inhaling, lifting, exhaling, placing down, imagining that you're marching in place and noticing what happens when things begin to change, when you begin to get active. Does your attention begin to get a little bit more enlivened through the feet? Or do you feel like you need to be doing something else or going somewhere else? Letting that go, draw your right knee in toward your chest, holding around the front of the knee or back of the thigh. Begin to trace small circles with your right ankle in either direction to start. Seeing about moving around the edges of this circle. You lead with your big toe or your heel. If you change your orientation, leading with your heel instead of your big toe. Moving in the other direction when you're ready, slowing it down enough so that you can notice what you're doing. And then letting that go. Draw your left knee in toward your chest. Just leaving the knee up in the air, roll circles through your left ankle slowly. Getting really thorough about this particular movement. And if you slow it down even more, you might notice some areas that are more staccato, more jerky than the rest of the circle. Just noticing that, working with those areas, maybe going slower or softer in those spots. Going in the other direction when you're ready. And then letting that go, bringing the left foot to the ground. Again, noticing the space at your low back where it lifts up a little bit away from the ground. Hands to the low belly or the pelvis for awareness, or arms at your sides still. We'll begin to move with our breath, tipping the pelvis up and down. So on your next inhale, begin to tip your tailbone and pelvis down, arch your back away from the ground. And on your exhale, reverse that movement. Lift your tailbone up, keeping hips and pelvis on the ground. Press your low back down toward your mat or toward the ground underneath you. And then continue with that movement, repositioning your feet as you need. So maybe they come closer or farther away from you. Just smoothly tipping the pelvis up and down, upside down cat-cow movement. If hands are on the belly or pelvis, you might feel this movement moving through you. And can you soften your gaze or close your eyes enough to turn your attention internally and notice how far up the spine this movement goes? You can make this even softer, even smaller, so that it's almost imperceptible. It's almost something that no one else could see. It's something that you feel inside of you. And then begin to bring that movement to a close and extend your right leg long on the ground, flexing your right toes toward your knees. So flexing your ankle, keeping the left foot planted, knee in the air. Begin to tip your left knee out to the left side, opening out through that hip or externally rotating through your left hip, and then tip the knee back to center, left side. And continue with that movement now, maybe moving with your breath. So exhaling, tipping your left knee out to the left and inhaling back to center. And as you continue with this movement, the breath could go on its own instead. But begin to notice what muscles you use to do this. If your left knee doesn't come all the way to the ground, that's okay. Trying to slow this down enough that you can control the movement so that you really don't let yourself just passively hang into it. Next time your left knee is up toward the sky, bring your left knee in toward your chest. And on your exhale, tap your left heel down to the ground, keeping that same bend in your knee, so about 90 degrees. And continue with that movement, heel down, heel up, knee in, knee away from you. Can you maintain about the same sort of neutral spine, little space below your low back as you move in this way? Can you soften through the center of your chest, your neck, your jaw as you move the knee up and down, and notice what muscles now help you do this movement, which is different than before. And then let that go. Extend your left leg long on the ground, feet a little bit wider than hips width apart, or exactly hips width apart. Flexing both toes toward your knees. Inhale, arms overhead. Take a generous bend through both elbows. Soften the arms either out to your sides or overhead. Arms don't have to come all the way down to the ground, creating almost a hoop overhead. On your exhale, take yourself toward your left side. So stretching into a banana type shape through just the upper body. Letting the head roll in whatever direction it would like to roll. Imagining pushing more down through your right heel and seeing what changes through the right side of your body, keeping legs wide, reaching your right ribs a little bit more apart from one another with each breath. Still lengthening through the left side of the body as well as the right as you bend toward your left side. And on your next inhale, come back to center. Sweeping arms down to your sides once again, taking a moment to reconnect with the ground. To pause and to notice. And then when you're ready, draw your right knee in, plant your right foot on the ground, knee pointing up toward the sky. And on an exhale, begin to open your right knee out to the right side. Inhaling back to center, moving with your breath, or letting your breath go on its own and just rocking your right knee back and forth, using the control that's afforded to you by your right hip muscles. replacing the right foot if it would like to go farther away from you for more comfort through your hip, or bringing it closer in if that's more comfortable. Folding and unfolding, moving and then not moving. Little pauses between the movements. Draw the right knee in toward your chest. If you notice you draw the knee in and you feel like you're really hunching through your back, your shoulders start to lift, bring the knee away from you. On your exhale, begin to tap your right heel down and bring it back up on an inhale, or move with your breath moving on its own again. Lengthening through your left side. Heel up, heel down. All you need to do is just be with this. And when you need, take rest. And again, notice the ground underneath you, supporting you, pushing up to have your back. And then when you're ready to let that movement go, once you feel you've gotten a sense of that sort of effort, that work there, let the whole thing go. Extend your right leg long on the ground, hip width or a little wider apart, flex through both toes toward your knees, arms overhead, deep enough bend in the arms so that they can create a hoop toward your sides or overhead. On your exhale, bend to your right side, banana type of shape or palm tree type shape to the right. Reaching your left shoulder away from your left hip, pushing through the left heel, maybe a little bit more, and noticing what changes there. How the spine can curl or curve to one side, and you can create space with your breath. You can notice the little areas that are still, that are opening, that are softening, that feel heavy. And then you can let it go. Bringing yourself back to center, draw both knees in toward your chest and roll to rest on your left side, repositioning yourself on the ground as you might need. So laying on your left side, little padding underneath your left hip or between the knees or underneath your head, a pillow or bottom arm underneath you if you would like. Find a position where you can rest on the ground and then bring your knees away from your chest so that they're not in line with your hips. They're almost in line with your torso. So pointing toward the wall that's at the direction of your feet. There's a long line at the front of you. And both knees could stay bent. If you would like, you could extend both legs long here. See how that feels. You could also stagger. So bottom knee, left knee is tucked in closer like a kickstand. Top arm, right arm is on the ground in front of you as a kickstand or resting on your side. Find a way that you can have your top leg, your right leg mostly in line with your torso. And on your inhale, begin to lift your right leg straight up toward the sky and bring it back down on your exhale. So the knee is pointing forward. If the leg is long, then the toes are also pointing forward on your right side without the toes turning. So we're not practicing a rotation here. You're just moving with hip abduction. So lifting the hip straight out to your side without shortening your right sideways. So without bending to your side. What sort of muscles, what sort of work help you do this? Maybe next time your right leg is up, you hold it there. And you keep holding there and you notice what happens, what changes. And you keep holding. And you soften where you need to soften. And when you're ready to let it go, you slowly release the control. Then bringing both knees tucked in, bent to about 90 degrees and close in toward your chest. Maybe a little padding in between the knees if you would like. Keeping both ankles glued together, top arm where it's comfortable. We'll begin some rotation now through the hip. We'll begin practicing this. So ankles together on your inhale. Begin to separate your top knee away from your bottom knee, lifting it up toward the sky without moving the ankles away from one another. You might reposition the knees with a little bit less of a bend or more of a bend, finding where you can rotate externally through your top hip, your right hip. Inhaling up, exhaling down, or letting your breath move on its own and letting the movement find its own rhythm. With no need to push yourself, no need to perform anything. Just a movement to begin noticing what happens when you move. Just enough of a rhythm, of a pace to notice the pause in between, the letting go. And then let the whole movement go when you're ready. Take a moment to rest on your side in seed pose before moving to the other side. So rolling to lay on your right side now, repositioning yourself with padding underneath you if you would need. We'll take that same sequence on this side. Padding underneath your head, pillow, bottom arm. Moving knees away from you so that they're almost in line with your torso. Both knees bent, both legs straight, one knee bent and top leg straight. Finding that this side will probably be slightly different in some way. When you feel support enough, straight through the front of the body, maybe a little drawing in through the lower belly. On your inhale, lift your top leg away from your bottom leg and exhale to lower. If you would like more activity through this position, don't bring the top leg all the way to the bottom. So let there be a hovering with knee bent or knee straight. If your top leg, your left leg is straight, flex through your toes, pushing through your heel. See what changes there. Not rotating through the hip, just lifting the leg, your left leg out and up to the side. And then holding it there perhaps. Seeing what changes. All the while breathing. Letting go of any expectation for you to produce anything here. Just being with the effort, the work when it needs to be done. And then letting it go when you're ready. Draw both knees in toward your chest. Positioning yourself in a way that you feel supported. Ankles together. Begin to lift your bottom knee away from your top knee away from your bottom knee. And lower. Inhaling, lifting left knee away from the right. Exhaling to lower. Relaxing any effort through the neck or chest. Some of the time we tend to use our side neck muscles or side waist muscles to bypass this movement. So if you notice yourself kind of pulling down your top side, take a moment to pause, to readjust yourself, to make the movement even smaller. Or to totally stop when you're ready. And then we'll all let that movement go right now. And take a moment to rest. On your next inhale, using your top arm, slowly push yourself up away from the ground. And we'll move forward into a tabletop position. So take some padding underneath your knees if you have some sensitivity or if you'd like more support. A blanket or a towel or a pillow. Take some time to position yourself with wrists underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips, and not dropping or slumping through the upper shoulders. Really begin to push the ground away and play with the position of your wrists so they might go a little wider or turn a little bit out. Find a way that you can really begin to push into the ground and then tuck both toes if it's comfortable for you and push back through your heels, stretching through the bottoms of your feet. You might stay here, you might shift weight back and forth, or you might on an inhale, drop the belly, lift the tailbone, lift your gaze into cow pose, and exhale, draw tailbone in, belly in, chest in, spine rounds, and round into cat pose. And you continue with your movement and your breath. Or again, an option to hold table, to work with just pressing through the bottoms of the feet and pressing the ground away is a nice option. You can make this very small if you're in movement, shifting forward and back, or just working with movement through the pelvis or just the upper spine. When you're ready, bring yourself back to tabletop, untucking toes. Extend your right leg back in space, toes tucked at the back of your mat or of your room. Hold here, or begin to lift your right leg away from the ground, toes still pointing down toward the ground, and keep your toes pointing straight down toward the ground. And begin to sweep your right leg out to the right side, inward and toward the left side. And then continue with that movement side to side, sweeping your right leg. This could be very tiny. Your toes could be near or on the ground as you sweep your right leg out to the side and over to the left side. So here, practicing hip abduction, hip adduction, noticing what muscles help you move. And you might begin to spread this movement through the spine, bending side to side, opening out through the ribs. Here it's okay to explore that. And next time your right leg is toward the left, bring the toes to the ground. Maybe you leave it there, pushing back through your heel, or maybe look over your left shoulder toward your heel. Notice what changes there through the neck and through your right ribs. Bring yourself back to center, right leg back to center in the air, and then bring your right knee to the ground, untucking your toes. Bring your left leg back in space, toes down to the ground, tucking toes, press back through your left heel. Imagine a line straight through the back of you, from heel to crown of head. Keep yourself there, or lift your left leg away from the ground, half spinal balance. Softening through the face and jaw. Maybe you begin to sweep your left leg side to side, out to the left, down low or up high. First, just isolating this movement to your left hip, and then maybe you get your side body, your ribs involved. Side bending side to side, not arching your back up or down. Toes pointing straight down. Next time your left toes are toward the right, bring them down to the ground. Tuck your toes, press back through your heel. Maybe look over your right shoulder, bending through your left side body one more time. And maybe your gaze comes forward. And then we'll all come back to center, left leg to the air, and then knee to the ground. From here, we're going to go backward into a lifted child's pose. So bring knees wider than hips, big toes closer together. Crawl your hands back toward your knees. Stay here, or bring elbows down to the ground. If you have a stack of books or some blocks or an ottoman or the edge of a chair, you could rest your forehead forward on that height, or hands could come up to support your forehead, stacked fists, or palms to the forehead, maybe rubbing your forehead a little bit, rubbing your temples, or just bringing hands on the ground to push the ground away. So not going all the way folded forward, but keeping yourself lifted, letting your lower body settle down to the ground, and then letting that go. Bringing knees back to hip width apart, toes to tuck, tabletop position. Begin to crawl your hands backward toward your knees. Push the ground away, lifting your knees. Crawl hands all the way back to your toes to find your way into a generously bent knee position in forward fold. So take a deep bend in your knees. Let your upper body hang forward over the front of your thighs. Maybe you shake your head yes, no, maybe so. Softening through the jaw, maybe even letting the mouth hang open slightly. Maybe you shift your weight side to side, or you hold in stillness, finding what's working for you here. Taking as much of a bend in the knees as you need to feel the force of the ground pushing up on the soles of your feet, to feel your legs supporting you, and to release as much effort as you can through the spine and shoulders. On your next inhale, begin to crawl your hands up to shins, ankles, or thighs. Find a halfway lifted position, lengthening your spine toward neutral. On your exhale, come down to fold. Pushing into the ground through your feet, bending through the knees. On your next inhale, push yourself up to stand, arms at your sides, coming up to Tadasana, or standing position, or mountain pose. And take your time to find your stance. So where your feet were just now might need to change, repositioning your feet so that you really feel like you could hold this standing position for a very long time without getting tired through the legs. Maybe rock your weight side to side or lift your toes and then soften them down to the ground. Maybe you rock weight in little circles or forward and back. Find a way that your feet could be without losing your balance. On your next inhale, sweep arms straight forward, palms facing. On your exhale, begin to turn to your left arm coming out to the side or all the way backward, bending through your elbow as much as you need. Hips still facing forward. Inhale back to center. On your exhale, turn to your right, following your right arm back in space. Inhale back to center. Repeat that 2 more times on your own rhythm of breath, exhaling to twist to the left, inhaling to center, and exhaling to the other side. Hips facing forward. Maybe you follow your opening arm with your gaze, with your eyes. Softening through the knees, maybe even pushing into the feet as you come back and forth each time. On your inhale, back at center, arms come overhead. Exhale to fold. Inhale to lift up halfway, lengthening your spine through the crown of your head. Exhale to fold. Again, on your inhale, push through your feet, come to stand. Once again, Tadasana. Notice yourself here standing. Notice the differences. More aware of your legs here. And turn your palms backward in space. Begin to bend through your knees. Sweep your palms to face forward. And on your next inhale, begin to sweep your arms forward in space to shoulder height as you come to stand. So arms forward, Tadasana. Turn palms down. On your exhale, sweep your arms back as you bend through the knees. Chair pose. Inhale. Repeating this sequence, repeating this flowing movement. We'll inhale to stand, palms turn up, scooping the air in front of you. Exhale to sweep palms down and back as you bend through the knees. Maybe imagining that you're sweeping sand through your fingertips or rolling your hands through water. Repeating this a few more times, making this meditative and slow and easy so that you can feel the internal experience of this bending, this sweeping, and this extending, this coming to stand in your place. The next time you're in chair pose, knees bent, bring arms forward, palms to face, hands at heart center if you would like, arms to your sides or arms overhead. And settle here, stay here. Notice the sounds around you, the ground underneath you. When you have to hold, when you're in the transition point, where is the compassion? And then when you need to let it go, come to stand. And then find a comfortable stance, taking feet a little bit wider than hips width apart, turning yourself as you need, turning feet out, heels in. So taking your time to set up into this wide stance. And then straightening both legs, bring arms to your sides, palms facing forward. On your next inhale, sweep arms out to your sides, palms turning to face up, softening through the center of your palms. On your exhale, Bend through both knees as you draw your elbows into your sides. Horse stance or goddess pose. Inhale, extend yourself out in space. Arms reach out to your sides, legs extend long. Exhale, sink your weight down. Goddess pose, horse stance. Inhale to star pose, opening your palms toward the sky. And on your exhale, goddess pose. This could be a tiny movement through the knees and arms. Could be more dramatic. And we'll come to settle in goddess pose. So when you're ready, we'll meet there. Elbows into your sides, knees bent, planted on the ground, supported by the earth underneath you. Bring hands to heart center. Connect to your center here. Still breathing. Noticing the still spaces. The quietness. Even when you hold and things are difficult, you always have a choice. And pause is a moment to respond. When you're ready, release the pose. Legs straight, arms to your sides. Sweeping arms overhead on your next inhale. Turn palms to face inward. Elbows bent to about 90 degrees or to a comfortable place. On your exhale, bend through both knees. Goddess pose, horse stance. And then bring your left palm to the low belly, cupping palm up, right arm overhead. On your next exhale, begin to bend to your left. Right arm goes overhead more. And then we'll switch your arms. Inhale through center, exhale, take left arm overhead, right arm down, and then bend to your right. And continue with this movement side to side, switching palms. So imagining that you have a globe or a circle at the center of you, and you're just rounding your palms over the surface, maybe extending a little bit more through one side and then the other. Reaching through your ribs as you settle weight down and stay still and stable through your hips. Taking advantage of reaching length through the center line of both legs. And taking that line all the way up as you lengthen through both ribs. And the next time you're over to one side, maybe you hold it there, supporting yourself with your bottom arm on bottom hip or holding arm in the air. Inhale through center and exhale to your other side to hold it there for a breath or two. Spreading through your ribs on your inhale, pushing your feet away, imagining pulling them in at the same time, stable, unmoving, strong. Inhale through center. Bring arms out to the sides, palms up. Exhale, hands to heart center, straightening the legs. Begin to heel toe your feet back to hip width apart. Coming to stand, noticing the difference. And we'll come to a balancing stance here, a balancing position. So find a way to stand on the ground where you've got a stable surface underneath you. Maybe you paddle out your feet a little bit to begin warming up through your legs. Finding Tadasana when you're ready. And drawing weight through your right leg, hands coming to heart center. Stabilize yourself, center yourself here. On your next inhale, begin to lift up your left heel. So this could be it. You could stay here. You could draw your left knee closer in toward your chest, foot coming away from the ground. You could stay here, drawing the outside of your right hip in without tilting your pelvis. Pelvis is level, knee comes up. Drawing down through the sides of both of your ribs, your waist. Maybe your left leg turns out to your left side and then comes back to center. Turns out and comes back, or if you'd like to hold in just a stable balancing position, leaving your left leg either forward or facing out to the left. Externally rotating through that left hip. So same sort of effort that you've done already, just visiting it in slightly more difficult circumstances when you have to stand and balance using those same muscles, arms in a comfortable position at heart center, at hips, out to the sides. Drawing your left knee back to center if it's not already there. Bring your foot to the ground. Feel your left foot on the ground. Softening through the back of both knees. Drawing weight down through your left leg. Lift your right heel from the ground. Stay here. Or draw your right knee in toward your chest and notice if this is where you would like to stay. Maybe your right leg turns out slightly and then turns back in, and you just play with a reflection of the movement. If your toes are on the ground, you can still turn your knee out and in. Moving in a rhythm or staying in a stillness that supports you so that your attention doesn't go beyond you. You notice what you're doing and you stay with it when it's useful, and you let it go when it's useful to do so. You hold with your right knee out to the side and you play with that balance, and you notice the shifting, and you're with that until slowly you bring your right knee back to center and you're ready to let it go, bringing your right foot all the way to the ground. Noticing the difference. Bringing arms to your sides on your inhale, sweep arms up overhead as much as you would like. Exhale to fold, softening through both knees. Inhale to lift up halfway, gaze slightly forward. Exhale to fold, bringing both hands to the ground. Take one knee back and down to the ground. Take your other knee down to the ground through a tabletop position. Pushing the ground away, bring knees wide, big toes closer together, crawl hands back toward your knees, child's pose. If you would like to fold deeper, if that's something that you do, and that's something that can happen here, coming all the way to the ground. We're keeping elbows on the ground or just keeping palms on the ground. Finding a child's pose that nourishes you, that you feel supported through your hips and legs. And soften your breath. Just being here in the pause. On your inhale, push yourself up, away from the ground. Swing legs out to one side or the other, and bring feet in front of you on the ground, knees pointing up toward the sky, coming to a seat. Hands can be at your sides. Hands can begin to help you to your back, or arms can reach forward if you'd like to use more effort to roll yourself on your exhale all the way to the ground. Make your way to constructive rest, lying on your back, feet wider than hip width, allowing the knees to fall in, hips to rotate inward toward one another. Letting the low back spread across the ground, softening and getting heavy through your sacrum, just to check in and notice yourself arriving here and what's different, what's new since you began this short practice. And crawl feet inward toward one another, hip width apart. Crawl your arms in toward the sides of your body, palms down. On your next inhale, begin to lift your tailbone up away from the ground. You might stay with that, or you might slowly draw your hips away from the ground, lifting your low back into an arching shape of bridge pose. On your exhale, roll down through the length of your spine, coming all the way to your starting position. Taking a moment to notice that rest of doing nothing before inhaling, and repeating that a few more times on your own, lifting into a bridge or just playing with the idea of bridge, tipping tailbone up and then lowering down. No need to produce or extend yourself beyond where you need to go. Pushing the ground away through the top back of your shoulders and through your feet. Knees stay in line with your hips. Exhaling to lower. Inhaling to lift in your own rhythm. Letting this be quiet and slow. Maybe holding on your last round of lifting for a breath or two. And catching your next exhale to take the ride all the way down to the ground. Settling the back there. Feet a little bit wider than hips, letting the knees fall in, staying there. Or separating your knees, bringing arms wider away from you, palms up. You might like a twist through the spine. So on your exhale, take your knees to your left. A little bit of the way or more of the way. Inhale through center, exhale, knees to your right. And repeat that movement enough times that you begin to get a sense of a relaxing, a moving through the muscles around the spine. You feel the pelvis rocking side to side on the ground underneath you. And you begin to accept that rolling, that twisting through the spine as a way things are, as a way that you could soften and move through yourself. And next time you're back at center, bring legs long on the ground. Hip width apart or so. Bring arms overhead, bending through the elbows or extending through both arms long. We'll come into palm tree or banana pose here. Arms could be behind the head too, almost as if you're resting on a beach. On your next exhale, begin to take your upper body toward the left back corner of your room. You could stay here just like at the beginning of your practice, pushing more through the right heel and seeing what changes in the legs. If you would like, your right leg could come closer to your left, creating a full curved shape through your right side body, letting the head roll in whatever direction it would like to roll in, keeping the back of your pelvis fully supported on the ground. Noticing how your breath moves through this position in the body. Maybe moving through the feet, pointing, flexing toes, and seeing what changes if you do that. Taking one more breath here. Your next inhale, bring yourself to center. Legs hip width, arms stay overhead, setting up for the opposite side. On your exhale, you're going to take your upper body toward the right back corner of your room or of your mat. Repositioning your arms in a way that works for this side. Arms wide, arms long overhead, reaching more through your left arm. Keep legs as they are. Bring your left leg closer to your right. Imagining spreading through the sides of the body. Having arms overhead is just not working on either side. Arms could be down at your sides too. The idea is reaching your opposite, your opening shoulder side away from your hips. So on this side, it's the left side. Length all the way down that side of you. One more breath here. When you're ready, let the position go, let the pose go by slowly bringing yourself all the way back to center. We'll begin to get set up for Shavasana for final relaxation here. So you might like to take constructive rest position. If you would like, you could keep the legs extended long and grab some support for underneath the knees so that you don't feel like your waist or your low back is arching. Give yourself the support that you need. Legs could be elevated on a couch or an ottoman here, supporting the shins and lower legs above the level of your chest. Or you could come to rest on the side of your body. So play with those positions. Find a way to lie on the ground or come to a seated position in a way that's comfortable so that you can allow yourself to be supported as much as you need. Letting arms rest beside you. Softening your gaze or allowing your eyes to slowly, sweetly float all the way closed. Again, allowing the back of your body to know its connections with the ground. To imagine those parts of you that feel heavy, that feel weighted and held, to spread. To give yourself permission to receive this support, to take enough time to get still, so that when it's time to respond, when there's something that you need to do, you can respond with compassion. And when there's nothing to do, when it's time to rest, that is the most compassionate response, to rest. Feel free to stay here for as long as you would like. When you're ready to move on with your day, take your time to begin extending your awareness to notice the sounds around you. Let the body stay heavy on the ground. To notice your breath moving in its own rhythm. To hold all of this in your awareness. To just be in it in this moment. No rush. When you're ready to reawaken your attention in the body, begin to bring small movements to the fingers and toes, maybe rolling through the ankles and wrists or rocking your head side to side. And take your time to draw your knees inward, to roll to rest on either side of the body. And then slowly press yourself up to a comfortable seated position. Taking your time to get there and giving yourself enough time to spend in a seated moment of quiet stillness once you arrive. Resting hands on the top of your thighs, or maybe in your lap, or hands at heart center. Letting the effects of your practice take root deep within you. Sending yourself a moment of gratitude for supporting yourself by showing up for your practice. And sharing that gratitude with those who support you in taking this time for yourself. And your whole community for holding you up and sharing this space with you. To our teachers, our community, to ourselves, we honor with this practice. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.